Are you working for the IELTS exam and are you a little bit worried about your grammar score? Part of the criteria for getting a good score in grammar in IELTS writing is having the ability to use complex sentences. Now, this is something that candidates often struggle with. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the band descriptors that talk about complex sentences. I'm going to talk about sentence structure in English, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can use these sentences in your IELTS writing. And you must forgive me because I'm going to be having to look down at my notes in this video because I can't remember all of my example sentences. So let's look at the IELTS band descriptors first. And these are the public band descriptors, not the ones the examiners use. Band 4 talks about using a limited range of structures with only rare use of subordinate clauses. Now, a subordinate clause is a dependent clause. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but basically what they mean in this band 4 descriptor is that people can't really use more complex sentences, certainly not accurately. Now, the band 5 descriptor says attempts complex sentences, but these tend to be less accurate than simple sentences. So by band 4, you're kind of reaching kind of B1 level. You've got an idea of complex sentences, but you're not really able to use them with too much accuracy. Band 6, the descriptor says, uses a mix of simple and complex sentences. So we can see that by band 6, you're starting to be able to use these more complex forms. And by band 7, they talk about having a variety of complex structures. So this means that a band 7 IELTS candidate is able to use multiple sentence structures in their writing and be able to do so reasonably naturally and reasonably accurately. So now we've looked at those band descriptors, let's go on and look at those 4 different types of sentence structure in English. The first one is the simple sentence, and although it's simple, it can still be quite long. The simpleness refers to the fact that it is one independent clause. This means that an independent clause is a clause that kind of makes sense on its own, and it doesn't need anything else with it to make 100% sense. And a simple sentence must have a subject and a verb. Okay, so here's an example of a simple sentence. English is important for the development of the mind and body. Oh, I said the wrong word. Exercise is important for the development of the mind and body. So exercise is the subject, is the verb, and then we've got quite a long kind of complement at the end of the sentence, but it's still a simple sentence. Second kind of sentence type is the compound sentence. And a compound sentence is made of 2 or more independent clauses. And we join these clauses either with a conjunction, which is a linking word, or a semicolon. Now, these 2 independent clauses, you could put a full stop between them and just keep them as 2 little simple sentences. But because we're looking at ways of expanding your ability to write in with different sentence structures, it's really good if you can take these 2 independent clauses and connect them with a conjunction. So here's an example. Exercise is important for the development of the body and therefore should be given a more important role in education. I'm going to say that again. Clause number 1, exercise is important for the development of the body, conjunctions, and therefore second clause, should be given a more prominent role in education. So we've got the two independent clauses joined up together to give us a compound sentence. Now the third sentence structure is a complex sentence, okay? And these are made of the independent clauses that we've been talking about combined with a dependent clause. And if you remember when we looked at the band for descriptors, it talks about rare use of subordinate clauses are dependent clauses. So you need to be able to show that you can use dependent clauses in your IELTS writing. And a dependent clause is one that does not make sense on its own. So let's have a look at an example. Although academic subjects are important, exercise is also critical for the development of the body. So the first part, although academic subjects are important, that is your dependent clause, because I can't say to you, although exercise is important for the dependent of the body. I need more information for that to make sense. So we combine that dependent clause with the independent clause. Exercise is also critical for the development of the body. And we have a comma between the dependent and the independent clause. That kind of sentence is great in IELTS writing. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this video. The fourth and final sentence type is the compound complex sentence. And these are made of two or more independent clauses with one or more dependent clause. So you're kind of combining everything that we've talked about. Here's an example. Although academic subjects are important, exercise is also critical for the development of the mind and body, and therefore it should be given a more prominent role in education. So we've got our dependent clause. Although academic subjects are important, exercise is also critical for the development of the mind and body. That's our independent clause 1, and therefore, conjunction, it should be given a more prominent role in education. That's the second independent clause. Okay, so those are the four types of sentence structure. Let's have a look at how you can practice these so that you can get good at them and start to integrate them in your IELTS writing. Now, the first thing to say is you really need to start at the beginning, okay? If you don't know much about this, please don't go away and try and write a compound complex sentence. I've seen IELTS writing where people just have no concept of sentence structure at all, and it's a mess. And it's hard to read, if not impossible to read in places. So if you are very new to this, you must start at the beginning. So practice writing simple sentences before you do anything else, okay? Because if you can't write a good simple sentence, how are you going to write a complex sentence or a compound sentence, okay? So start at the beginning and write lots of simple sentences until you feel really confident and you don't have to think too much about it. Once you can do that and you feel kind of okay, you can start looking at structures which will give you the ability to write more complex sentences, and conditionals are particularly good in IELTS writing. So conditionals are sentences with an if, basically. If, sometimes we can use and provided that, on the condition that, all that kind of stuff. But when you start a sentence with an if, you automatically create a complex sentence because you have a dependent clause and an independent clause. So it is absolutely worth your time really getting into the different conditional structures that English likes to use. First, second, third, zero, and the mixed conditionals. Well worth the investment of time. Now, another way that you can kind of integrate complex structures into your IELTS writing, and a great way to practice, is by using words like although, while, and whereas at the beginnings of your sentences. And when I'm teaching IELTS writing, I always teach people that they should have a sentence that begins with although in the introduction. Because if you do this, you have already got one complex sentence, and the examiner can see straight away, oh, they've got a complex sentence, tick. Okay, so if I'm structuring the introduction in an IELTS essay, I would always have my paraphrase of the question and then start the next sentence with although and make myself a complex sentence. Okay, so it's definitely worth practicing although, while, and whereas. And finally, another thing you can work on are relative clauses. Relative clauses use words like which, when, where, whose, and who. And they are really good ways of boosting your grammar score because they allow you to kind of connect ideas in a more sophisticated way. And here's an example sentence. Children who are supported by their parents tend to do better than those whose parents are disinterested in their education. Okay, so those four things: learning how to write a simple sentence, learning about conditionals, learning how to use although, while, and whereas, and learning about relative clauses. If you can work on those four things, you are going to improve your ability to write complex sentences. Now, when it comes to writing the actual essay, again, this is something that I would always teach. You must make a plan. Too many IELTS candidates do not make plans, and this is a big reason why IELTS writing often isn't very good, and it makes no sense and it doesn't answer the question, and it's because people don't make a plan. When I'm teaching IELTS writing or any writing, I teach people a specific structure, and I teach them to plan every single sentence so that when they start to write the essay, they know exactly what they are going to say, and it makes the writing process really much quicker. Now, as I already said, I always have a complex sentence in my introduction, and I would paraphrase that complex sentence in my conclusion with a different word at the beginning. So if I have although in my introduction, I might have whereas or while in the conclusion. But by doing that, I've already got two complex sentences. And I would then make a plan to have one complex sentence in my first main body paragraph and one complex sentence in my second main body paragraph. Maybe a conditional in the first one and a relative clause in the second one. And that's enough. If you can get 4 complex sentences into your essay, you have done enough. So that's kind of all I feel I need to say about this. If you have any questions, comments, disagreements, please do leave them below. I'm always happy to hear from you. If you'd like to put some of your example sentences into the comments, again, please do so. If you are watching this on my YouTube channel, please do subscribe, because I put new videos here all the time, and it's a great place for you to get information about learning English. My name is Sarah. I am an English teacher and language anxiety coach. Thanks so much for watching this video.